Today we are going to discuss about the concept called exception handling. In a very simple way, in a very simple way, we can understand. We can understand what is exception handling, right, and how to do all these things. Suppose here it is. Here it is. I just want to read two numbers and perform the addition operation. With a very simple example, I'll explain. How to read two numbers means what? Using that scanner, java.util.scanner. Okay. Now here we ask enter two numbers. Enter two numbers. We are just reading. We know how to read. X is equal to scan.nextInt. We need to create the scanner object. Scanner scan equals to new scanner and passing that system.in as an input. And the second number also scan.nextInt. We are just adding them, and then printing them. System.out.println that sum equal to that z we are printing. Z. So when we are executing the code, see in all the previous examples what we have discussed, simply whenever we are asking to enter two numbers, so we are expecting two numbers 10 and 20 they entered. Happy, it's a 30. It is called a success case. It is called success case. Now once again I'm executing. Whenever we are expecting two numbers in an input, first one suppose integer, second number they enter ABC. It is exception. How can you guarantee that? Here, this is invalid input given. Invalid input given. This is called exception. Exception comes at runtime. Comes at runtime. That is, every exception is a class. It is belongs to util package. This is the class. Exception is a class. Is a class, remember. So very simple one. Whenever there is an instruction execution, instruction, you just execute that one. Execute. If the instruction is a successfully execute, success, it will give the result. If the instruction is a failed in execution, that is called exception. That is called exception. So from here onwards, you need to think in two ways. In two ways you have to think. If the instruction executed successfully, what will happen? Suppose if the instruction execution failed, what will happen? That is called exception. So now based on this, I'm writing the points directly. What is exception? Exception is a runtime error. At runtime it will come. Exception is a class. Exception terminates program execution. Normal flow of terminates normal flow of program execution. Normal flow of program execution. That is simple one. This is the code. Sir, then what we have to do? What we have to do? As a programmer, we need to think in two ways. In two ways. If the instruction, it's a successful execution gives result. Is execution failed? Execution failed means what? It will give exception must be handled. You must handle that exception. Sir, how can we handle that exception? How can we handle that exception? Simply, they have given try catch block. See, here there is a chance of getting exception. This you must place in a block called try block. Try. Sir, what is the code that you have to place inside the try block? Simple. What is the code that may rise, may or may not, that may rise exception, the doubtful code, you must put it in a try block. Okay. If there is no exception, happily try block executes. Sir, if there is an exception, one object will come that you have to catch. Catch. Sir, what we have to catch? Look at this. Here, chance of getting input mismatch exception. You need to catch by declaring the variable. Here you can give your message. Exception, invalid input. Invalid input. That is invalid input. So you need to import that because that is belongs to util package also. Import java.util.input mismatch exception is a way. Now here simply I am writing the code. So what is that? What is the use of handling exception? Try block. What is the purpose of try block? Is used to place doubtful code that may rise exception. What is the use of catch block? Catch block is used to collect exception object and handle. So whenever exception comes here in this line or in this line, because whenever you are taking input in any one line, they can enter the wrong input. So either in this line fail or in this line fail. If exception comes, control directly will come to this catch block and this message will print. When you are executing this code, if the input is successfully given, it is a success case. Output sum equals to 30. Suppose if input is wrong, suppose initially they have given ABC. See, look at this. Now, what is the message we have provided? That message it is printing clearly. This is what handling the exception. This is handling the exception. Whenever problem occurs, it will show the output. It will show the output. This is. Okay. Now, here it is. One try block can have any number of catch blocks, not only single block. Reason is, now I just want to perform division operation, not addition, x by y. So I just want to display what is the quotient or this result I am giving. Now the question is, when we run the code, of course, if they enter wrong input, automatically invalid input given output will come. But sir, input is a integers only. 10 is an integer, right? 5 is an integer. So output is a 10 by 5 quotient is a 2. But see, whenever they have given two numbers, if denominator is 0, can you divide any number with a 0? Impossible. We cannot divide any number with 0. So again, you will get another exception. What is that exception? Arithmetic exception. It is in lang package. In Java, lang package no need to import. By default, it will be imported. But sir, how to write this? How to handle the second exception? Suppose it is E1 and one more catch block we have to write. Arithmetic exception E2. E2. Sir, why second one came? Because denominator is 0. So exception cannot divide with the 0. When you run 10 and 0 cannot divide with 0. Simple one. Cannot divide with a 0. One try block. This is actually called try with multiple catch blocks. Try with multiple catch blocks. One try block can have any number of catch blocks. Why? Because to handle different exceptions occur in different lines of code. What is it meaning? Suppose here, in these two lines, whenever you are taking input, if exception occurs, it will come to here. Suppose in the third line, if exception occurs, it will come to this line. It's an easy way. Got it? So here, this is simply we call, whenever problem comes here, it will come to the first catch block. If, yeah. No. We have to know because we are the programs. We have to code it. That's it. See, if you know before it, I mean, for some of the methods, it will show directly. I'll show you in the library now. But some of the methods we don't know. By the time at runtime only, by testing only, we need to know. Okay, see, I'll explain. Suppose how we know this. First, let me explain this. Whenever we are writing multiple catch blocks, sir, I don't want to write a multiple catch blocks. I want to write everything in a single catch block means what? Here, for all exceptions, there is a parent class is an exception. Either it is input mismatch exception, or it is an arithmetic exception, or it is a null pointer exception, or it is an array index out of bounds exception, whatever it is. For all child classes, there is a parent class. So, sir, if there is a chance of getting any exception, directly you can mention that parent exception, so that you can handle any child exception. That is a possibility. Here, now whenever multiple exceptions you just want to handle, instead of writing multiple catch blocks, just mention exception E. That's all. It's only one. Exception E. Then here you cannot divide with 0. Common message you have to give, because all exceptions you are handling with the same name only. Exception caught. That's it. Exception caught and handled. Exception caught and handled. That's all. Exception by specifying exception class, parent class, we can handle multiple exceptions using single catch block. By the time, no need to mention this one. only exception. So look at this, whatever the exception comes, enter two numbers, 10 and ABC, exception caught and handled. Next one, for example, 10 and 0 given, 10 and 0, exception caught and handled. Same output will come, same output. But there is a predefined message. There is a predefined method actually. Method. What is that? Get message. Get message, one method is there. It prints the system generated error message. Error message of exception object. Default message is there. Instead of writing system generated, default error message. Here E is there, na? E. Exception. Sir, what is that? Exception plus E dot. There is a predefined method called get message. In real time, we follow this one also. Because instead of handling all exceptions, simply we write the catch block and we mention that exception and simply the default message we are providing. Default message. Once you run now 10 and 0 if you give, look at the default message. The default message is divided by 0. This is, it's a default message. Is a default message. That is what this is. So this is simply using try block and catch block. Try and catch. One more block is there. One more block is called finally block. What is that finally block? Finally block contains resource releasing logic. Resource releasing logic. Sir, what is that resource? Why it is writing here? Resource releasing logic. So what is that resource releasing logic? Here it is. Any releasing statements like file closing or database closing. These kind of statements. Next one, important one. Finally block executes whether or not exception raised. In case of exception, finally block executes. In case of no exception, finally block executes. In case of exception, finally block executes. In case of no exception, finally block executes. In every situation, finally block executes. Sir, why? What kind of statements we are writing? First, let me explain with the simple example. Simple example. Here, this is ATM machine. This is considered ATM machine. Where that application is running, you have inserted the ATM card. Inserted ATM card for transaction. For transaction, this ATM card is nothing but resource. Resource. Now the transaction is a successful. Transaction success. It will release, has to release card, ATM card. For example, transaction failed. Will it keep the card? No, has to release the card. Either it is a success case or it is a failure case. So according to this one, that resource card releasing card releasing logic must be placed inside the finally block. Inside the finally block. Right? What you want to execute in every situation, either it is in a success case or it is in a failure case, you must place inside the finally block. Here, that is only the code. It's just a theory, then code I'll explain. Same, suppose here it is simple one I'm writing. I'm not writing this much. I'm not writing this much. Simply x is equal to 10 by 5. I'm giving one message here. System.out.println. It's a try block. It's a try block and it's a catch block. Just a messages I'm giving. It's a catch block. And the third one is finally block. System.out.println. It's a finally block. 3. The 3 blocks we mentioned here. Okay. Now, when you are executing this code, see there is no exception. Any exception here? No exception. So that's why in case of no exception here. That's why try block is executing. Try block is executing. Finally block is executing. Finally block is executing. In case of exception and in case of no exception. Sir, suppose in case of exception. In case of exception, I am writing 10 by 0. 10 by 0 is exception. Look at this. Is the exception. Again, I am running. Right. Is an exception case. In this line, exception comes. Exception comes. That's why catch block is executed as exception comes. Finally block is executed. See, the question is, finally block executes in every situation, whether it is a success case or it is a failure case, no matter. In every situation, exception occurs. Remember that one. Okay. The code I'm just sharing, you just practice. This is the one. The next one is 2 more are there. Totally 5 keywords are there. Try, catch, finally, throw and throws are there. But what is that throw and throws? First of all, we need to understand that 2 things. We need to understand 2 things. What are those? It's a common code. What is that common code? What is the common code? I'm writing the class. Person can vote or not. One static method I'm writing simply can vote based on the age. If age is a valid age, yes. Valid age, the person can vote. Person can vote. If not, else the person cannot vote. The person cannot vote. Okay. Now in this one, I'm just creating the object of scanner class, new scanner of system.in. Simply. Now I am writing here, enter the age. Enter age. That we are reading. Age is equal to scan dot next int of just calling. You know how to call person dot can vote and passing the age. Person dot can vote and passing the age. Just click on run. Click on run. Enter age. If it is valid age, can vote. If it is not a valid age, normally you will get cannot vote. This we know already. We have seen this program. But the question is, if it is a failure case, it must be an exception. It must be an exception. That is actually called custom exception. Now I am writing custom exceptions. Exception is also class. Class. Now what is the exception name, sir? What you want to put? It's your wish. Just like a input mismatch exception, right? Arithmetic exception. In the same way, I'm just giving here low age exception. It's our own exception. But sir, how it will become exception class? It has to extend the functionality of exception. That's all. Don't write anything. As of now, just make it empty. Remember, how can you create the custom exception? The question will rise. Here, now we are going to discuss about custom exceptions. Custom exceptions. Java library providing so many predefined exception classes. Predefined exceptions. Just what we have discussed. Input mismatch exception. Input mismatch exception. Division arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception. Like later will come in files concept. File not found exception. In a JDBC, some SQL exception. These things will come. But here, programmer can define custom exceptions. Custom exceptions. How? Every custom exception class must extends predefined exception class. Must extends predefined exception class. Functionality will come. Anything class name is a custom exception. It is extending from predefined exception class and is exception logic. As of now is not there, just empty. Just empty is a custom exception. So when we go with that custom exception, so this one only failure case, sir. In else block, it's a failure case. It's a failure case. So what will happen? You have to create object of low age exception. Low age exception. This is error equal to new low age exception. New low age exception. You have to create object for low age exception. In a failure case, error you have to create and you should throw that error, throw that object. Now observe. In which method? Look at this. In line number 23, you are throwing the error. You will get error message here. In line number 23, you are throwing the error. You must be declare it as a thrown. Nothing but in this method, there is a chance of getting this exception. Here you have to clearly mention throws which exception may occur when you call this method. This is. What is the meaning? It is the warning message. For whom? for those who are calling this can out method. Whenever you are calling can out method, there is a chance of getting low age exception. You please handle. In line number 9, you are calling. In line number 9. So you will get the error in line number 9. Line number 9. Here, whenever you are calling can out method, there is a chance of getting low age exception, but you are not handling. So in try block, you have to write this one. In a catch block, you need to handle that exception. Of course, you can give directly exception also. Low age exception, giving that message. Exception, what is that? Low age error. This is one way. Now clearly I'm going to explain. First point is, now when you are executing this, let me make it shorten so that is visible. Right. Age is what? 13. Low age exception. First point is, in case exception occurs, we need to create object, exception object, create exception object in case of failure. Success means cannot, failure means that is. Next one is a throw. Throw keyword is used to throw exception object. Next, this is important. Throws keyword is used to provide information about which exception occurs inside the method. And here, while calling the method, we must handle that exception. All these things you need to write. It is actually called custom exception. One more example I'll give. Just like this. Here, now I'm not taking person. It's an account. Directly I'm taking one variable, static variable. Just consider balance 3,000 rupees is there. Now it's a withdraw method. How much amount you want to withdraw, you have to pass. If amount is greater than or equal to balance, less than or equal to balance, okay. Then you can withdraw money happily, collect cash happily. It's a success case. Failure case is what? It's a low balance exception. You have to create object of low balance exception. So here there is a chance of getting low balance exception. Simple way. Here enter withdraw amount. How much amount you want to withdraw? That amount that you have to pass while calling account dot withdraw that amount. On success happy, on failure low balance exception, it's a low balance. Same code. When you run If the amount is 2,300, happy, it's a success case, you can collect the cash. If it is a failure case, 3,400, it's a low balance exception. Low balance exception. This is the simple way of using 5 keywords. In the tomorrow class, few more examples in custom exceptions I'll explain, and then we will move to multi-threading concept also. Just 5 keywords are there. Try, catch, finally, throw, and throws. The purpose, once again, I'll explain in the next class by giving few more examples in that class. That recording session also I will share in 1 hour. Okay, you just go through that recording session. You can leave now.